This is a special news episode about an electric car startup from China, which we find very interesting. You know, the ones with a gigantic screen. Yes, you guessed it, we are talking about Byton. We have some new and interesting updates on the progress of their factory in Nanjing.
We have some cool updates on the production version of their first car, the Byton M-Byte. And we have some interesting updates on suppliers, assembly lines, and of course, that gigantic screen.
So stay tuned to find out why we think that this is one of the most promising electric car startups these days, apart from Tesla, of course.
So many of you might have first heard, like us, about Byton when they first reviewed their M-Byte concept car at CES 2018. Our first thought was, oh yeah, another outlandish sci-fi looking concept car that will either never see production or be released in a much more boring and toned down version, just like the legacy car makers always do. But then, what? The production version is 90% identical to the concept car. And what? They even say that the huge ultra-wide 48-inch screen will be in the production version. We were immediately hooked. This car is basically a sci-fi nerd's fantasy come true.
A futuristic and cool looking exterior design, then the huge and futuristic looking screen on the interior, then some Minority Report style gesture controls, and then also the level 3 autonomous driving capabilities. We were really impressed, but that was already in January 2018, 1.5 years ago. So what exactly happened since then? Well, it turns out a lot.
First of all, they are really building a giant factory in Nanjing, China. And the factory is almost finished. That here is a recent picture showing the current state of progress of the giant 800,000 square meter factory. Again, as for the Tesla Shanghai Gigafactory 3, the Chinese can really build fast. But the funny thing is that for Chinese standards, the factory is actually being built quite slowly. This is because the factory is 4.0 plant certified in order to ensure very high production standards. And this certification slowed down the progress a little. So everything is looking good, and they're really pushing hard to actually start building the Byton M-Byte by the first quarter of this year. And they should be fast because the demand for this car is high, with over 50,000 reservations and rising. Over 50% of the reservations are from China, because the car will be first released in China by the end of 2019.
The States and Europe will follow according to plan in 2020. Let's hope that the trade war won't escalate too much anymore, because then of course the sales will not be so good in the States. But even with trade war escalation, we think that this car will sell very good, just because of its unique design elements and because of the quite low starting price of the base model of $45,000 US. Here's a picture of a pre-production prototype which currently undergo active road testing. And we can see that indeed the exterior design is almost identical to the concept version, and the interior of the production version has already been released last year. So we indeed know that the production version will really come out with this huge gigantic screen on the inside.
The car will be offered with 2 different battery pack sizes and 2 power options. So the $45K US base version will have 200 kilowatts of power and 400 Newton meters of torque, a 71 kilowatt hours battery pack for a range of 400 kilometers. The more expensive trim option will offer 350 kilowatts of power, 710 Newton meters of torque, a 92 kilowatt-hour battery, resulting in a very nice range of 500 kilometers. These are some quite Tesla-sounding specs, and we are looking forward to range testing the car, and of course also testing the performance. 95% of the suppliers for the different car components are Chinese companies, by the way, which will enable this very competitive price. Also, Byton has the support of the FAW Group, the largest state-owned car manufacturer in China, for development of the Level 3 self-driving capability. They already have a cooperation with Aurora for interior design with Faurecia. The core of the battery will be supplied by CATL. The battery software and the battery pack covers will be produced by Byton themselves.
CATL is quite an interesting company because they actually plan on becoming the largest manufacturer for electric car batteries by the mid-2020s. They plan a gigantic battery factory in Germany for 2022 with an initial capacity of 14 gigawatt hours per year, which then, according to plans, will be expanded to 100 gigawatt hours per year until 2026. Now that would be some really serious battery output, about 3 times as large as Tesla's battery output nowadays. But we're pretty sure that until 2026, Tesla will not be sleeping. Isn't it amusing, however, that the German car makers will be forced to buy Chinese batteries produced in a Chinese factory on German soil? And that, dear German car makers, is what happens when you sleep too long.
And now finally to that gigantic screen. Just look at this thing. It will be a 48-inch ultra super wide 4K OLED screen, produced not by Samsung, but by a not so well-known, outside of China at least, Chinese company by the name of BOE. The software for the screen will be BlackBerry based for the left, the gauge cluster part, and the right part, the multimedia part, will be based on Android. The screen will be powered by a Qualcomm Snapdragon 828 processor. So expect some serious graphics performance and butter-smooth animations.
So we don't know about you, but we are really excited for this car and really can't wait until it comes out later this year. This car just seems too good to be true in our opinion. The exterior design, the interior design, the specifications, the performance, the range, and then, of course, the quite low starting price for the base version. And if Byton really manages to ramp up the production, it could become a major player in this new and growing electric vehicle market. Even though the co-founder Carsten Breitfeld recently left the company, it seems as if it doesn't have a negative impact. It seems that Byton is right on track for high volume production of the Byton M-Byte starting later this year.
So what about you? Do you like the features, the design, and the specifications as much as we do? And do you believe that Byton could become a serious competitor to Tesla, at least in China? We'd love to know your opinion in the comment section.
So be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because we'll certainly do many more interesting videos about electric cars and spaceflight, and we might even test the Byton and fly to Nanjing, right?
Yes!
We always love to fly to China because of this Blade Runner cyberpunk atmosphere.
Now I understand.
Yes?
And don't forget to share this video with your friends. See you next time!
Ciao!